I find this within the online space or people getting into business is just that there is this magic number of hitting their 10K a month. And what end up happening is a lot of people, even myself like included, I struggle for quite a bit to hit that 10K a month, and then it goes back to less up and down. Whereas if let's say we're thinking a lot bigger, right? It could be 100K per month, it could be a million a month, right? So why we're not able to, I guess, like think bigger, right? So because everyone just put ourselves in a box that okay, this is the magic number to financial freedom. So what are your thoughts on thinking big, and how can we, I guess, like, do you have a system or routine that you can think bigger, or is it something that you're actually getting into now yourself?
Routine. Oh my god. What a question, man.
Yep.
I really don't think this is okay. Here's a step by here is a 4-step
Yeah,
process. I just don't think that can happen.
Yeah.
This is something from the heart, and I put it simply this way: this is not like a system or routine. It's more like a principle.
Mm.
It's a truth, so to speak, right? Because anytime anything big happens, you got to take a risk, right? And the risk is that things might not end up working out, right? And let's go back to first principle. Let's go back to the foundation, for example. For a second, people stay within their comfort zone for self-preservation because they want to survive. Why? Because hundreds of thousands of years ago, our ancestors, right, in the caveman days, right, there was a lot of risk, there's a lot of danger, there's a lot of things that could kill and threaten the extinction of yourself or your village, right? And so these things, let's say staying in your comfort zone or anxiety or fear or thinking within a small realm.
Something that you're used to, right?
It helps you survive, helps you maintain yourself. However, we live in probably the most prosperous time in history, right? We live in an age where it doesn't even make sense. Even 10 years ago, you have 15-year-olds, right, who are now starting businesses and becoming multimillionaires, right?
That's true, yeah.
Things move fast, and it doesn't matter where you're like. You can be doing well, relatively speaking. You can not be doing that well. Your life can change like any minute, right? Like your life can change around super, super fast. And like a year ago, you could be, you could be doing well, and then you might not be doing as well, and then like that can change, right? So what I'm saying is we live in the most prosperous time, the most endless amount of opportunities, the technology that democratizes the opportunities for people. Yet we still have the defense and evolutionary mechanisms from 100,000 years ago, which were great back then, but it's not as good.
It's not
now.
related
It's conscious to be aware of those things, right? And that's a very big key thing to remember to be brave and to have the courage and just you learn. You learn as you're taking risks.
That's true.
It's important to take the risk.
And something I find, like, there's two types of goals, or three, like Bob Proctor actually mentioned, is one that you already know is predictable. Let's say if you were setting goals that's realistic, let's say you're making 10K a month and you're 5K a month, half of the month, right? So you know that 10K a month is possible, right? But let's say you switch that to something bigger, right? So getting to 100K per month, or starting that SaaS venture or something big and having 10 employees underneath you or something like that, or an AI. So thinking really, really big, that it hasn't happened in your reality, but you set it and then you reverse engineer that and you act as if that's going to happen, right? Because it always starts within our minds before it shows up into our reality. So that's where we want to like switch into, like they call it that quantum leap, because as you mentioned, like things can happen like instantly, right? But in order for that to happen, we have to see it in our mind and see and act as if it's going to happen, right? So act as if it's already happened.
In psychology, you have what's called the reticular activating system. Yeah. So in your brain, it's like whatever. It's like if I said to you, "Don't think of a pink elephant."
That's all I think about pink elephant.
Right. So our minds are like computer, like hardware, right? So whatever you feed it and whatever you decide, whatever answers you prompt it, right? Yeah, whatever question you prompt it, whatever, it's going to seek, whatever, it's going to give you back the answer. And from that answer, you're going to basically just seek what's in the external environment and whatever opportunity scope within the scope that you looking for that. So your minds are really, really good problem solving machines. So on your point there about thinking bigger, right? When you allow yourself to vision and you start thinking from that place, your mind will need to search for answers into physical reality, right? Because it could be that your current vehicle that you're operating the physical plane on for a while is not going to get you to that intended goal. So when you allow yourself the courage to think bigger, right? And because you can see it in your mind
That's
now,
true.
it's already happened.
Yeah.
Because it's already happened in your mind, right? But because it's already happened in your mind, you have to accept that. Okay, so you can imagine it.
Yeah.
It can happen, and it probably would happen. It already has happened, right? So you cannot unaccept that. You cannot unsee it. So the next thing you're forced to think is, okay, let's have a very hard look at what I'm currently doing, and is it going to get me there? So the thing we're talking about earlier about software or AI or technology or whatever it might be, right? And you find yourself doing what you're doing. Let's just say you're doing service work or consulting work.
Yeah.
You might even be very, very good at it, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember with my real estate agency in Australia, like we had like a lot of really, really good client success. You know, we were operating a team of 10 people and so on and so forth. And I know the real estate game back to front in terms of lead generation, acquisition, kind of thing. We kind of innovated that at the time. And then I'm still lingering. If you still linger around the space, just because it brings in cash flow, and just because you know the space, and just because you're comfortable because it's in your expertise, guess what? You're not growing.
Yes,
and then if you're thinking, why aren't I making the big moves in life?
Yeah.
Like that's when you ask the question.
It sort of feels like you're plateaued, and because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're just gonna get the same result. So for that to change, you have to think different. You have to do different, and in order for you to do different, you have to think different as well, right? So you can't be doing the same. Let's say service delivery, the way that you do it, this is the way that's always been done. So you operate that way, and then no wonder like your business stayed plateaued,
and you start burning out, and it also comes from wishy-washiness. Like when you mentally commit that this is the direction, your energy all of a sudden shifts.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
You go to networking events, and suddenly the right people you meet have to know the right people, the right opportunities, and things start connecting the dots. But you only start connecting the dots because in your mind you're allowing yourself permission. You know what? This is the direction I'm going down. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point as well. Because when you think bigger, it all relates back to thinking bigger. So you have to teach yourself how to think bigger, right? So you can start, I guess, like writing your goals down
and making decisions quickly. And making decisions quickly as well, because that gives your brain proof, not promises. Because anytime, I think there's an overall theme we were talking about 2 weeks ago. I said there are periods times where things are hard. There's a lot to do with how fast you make decisions, because that shows you trust yourself, right? Your gut, because the more you analyze and your daughter and everything, making a decision, you're basically giving your mind more proof that you don't trust your body to take one foot in front of the other and take action. Like an example, 1.5 years ago, growing up, I was an asthmatic kid. I convinced myself that I wasn't athletic and so on and so forth. I hated running. And it was a bit of a rough period at the time, right? So I thought, I want to get out of the house and just run around the block and come back, right? And it was only like 1 kilometer around the block, and I was just huffing and puffing, and the old lady across was just laughing at me. That's so ridiculous, right?
Actually, I had the same thing, like similar thing. Like when you're beginning to run, it's just like hard. you go out of breath. Yeah.
But then I come back, and I just felt completely different than before. I felt amazing.